Member from Northwestern, St. Catherine.
Thank you, Chairman. I bring greetings to the Minister as well from her friends and relatives in Ty Dixon.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Minister, I'd like to start with some of the revenue measures, in particular sweetened beverage. What's the actual estimated consumption for the year 23-24 and 24-25 that was used as the base for your projections?
All right, so we used 17.3 million cases in 2020. And notice I said cases, so you multiply that by an average of 24 bottles or cans. And
Put it on calculator for me now.
all right, sorry. Okay, so those numbers I'm told were just for carbonated beverage. What we used in our estimate, roughly 40 million cases.
40 million. Minister, the taxes in milliliter, and you know they're varied sizes. Would you have a milliliter amount?
You mean for the totality of it?
Yes, Minister.
It's over 500 billion milliliters.
Is that within the range of 500 billion or 700 billion? Over has a wide gap. Is it approximately 500 billion?
Right, approximately 500 billion milliliters.
Okay, well, Minister, you estimate a earning of $10.1 billion at 2 cents per milliliter. Would you confirm, therefore, that you expect no reduction in the consumption of that sugary drink, being that that would equate to 500 billion as well, milliliters?
Are you talking about
Consumption.
Are you talking about the 10.1 billion?
Yes, Minister. The levy of 2 cents.
All right. So here's the thing. One, these are estimates. Two, persons could decide that they want to drink less of the sugary drinks, and we see a reduction in that number.
Yes.
Right? That's a good thing from a health perspective. Persons could also decide that they will drink more, and we get the revenues that we estimate or more. Right, if they drink more, estimates, right, or more, right? So member, based on the data from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, they have been tracking non-communicable diseases for a while now, and they know with great certainty the negative impact of sugar, excess sugar, on the population of Jamaica. So if we get more than is estimated, that extra goes into the health sector to take care of those people when they land there, because they're going to show up with elevated levels. They're going to show up complaining of all kinds of ailments as a result of drinking excess sugary drink. So either way, Minister, either way, Chairman, whether it's 10.1 billion or more than 10 or less than 10, the health sector will have to take care of those who drink too much, and it will benefit from those who change their behavior and consume less.
Minister, unfortunately, I didn't get a response to my question. It was indicated that your base zero this year was 500 billion milliliters. Your best case projection or your most likely case projection suggests that at 2 cents, you will earn 10.1 billion, indicating therefore you expect no decrease in the consumption of the sugary drink, because it would take 500 billion times 2 cents to be 10.1 billion. All right.
All right. So member,
Yes.
I can say that the 10.1 billion had took into consideration, some amount of reduction in the consumption of the beverage.
So your previous figure of 500 billion would have been incorrect then. Your base figure you're
Well, I
saying.
told you approximately, and in fact, I just got confirmation that we used 533 billion, and that we looked at the experience in other countries that have instituted the tax to see what what the behavior was of their consumers.
All right. Minister, would you accept that at 500 billion milliliters, which is what your revenues project, that's equivalent to 400 bottles for every Jamaican soda per year?
Well, thank you for that calculation. That suggests that each person drinks a little more than one per day. And that's why the Ministry of Health and Wellness is seeing the explosion that it is in terms of diabetes and other sugar-related illnesses.
All right. Thank you, Minister.
So it is it's a real concern.
Yes, all right. Minister, have the ministry conducted a distributional incident analysis to see which section of the society will be most affected by this tax?
I've heard the concern that this will impact poor people the most. The tax will impact poor people the most. I would have to ask the Ministry of Health and Wellness, based on the experience with those who show up at the hospital, if that is the same population that's showing up. Obviously, we want everybody to be, to reduce their sugar intake, because we know it's not guessing and spelling about the impact of sugar on health. There's no guess and spell about that. The data is there.
Chairman, unfortunately, the minister is not answering my question.
What is your question, member?
There's an economic activity called a distributional impact assessment that is seeking to see any policies impact on the different quintiles within the society. Was such a study done, and what was the result of that study? That will confirm or deny if it is impacting the poor the most.
We take our data from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. They have incontrovertible data on the impact of sugar on the health of Jamaicans. Given the population that goes to our hospitals, it is clear that those people who are drinking more of the sugary beverage are the ones ending up in the health facilities. Member, we want the behavior of persons to change.
But your
Right?
projections
We want
don't suggest that you'd be successful. Minister, when we look at some figures here, and I understand that the tax is at source. At source, bag juice, $16, the tax would increase it by 31%. At source, Starbucks mocha, $329, the tax would increase it at 2%. Red Bull Tropical, $2.93, the tax would increase it at 1.7%. Welch's sparkling wine, the tax, and this wine doesn't include alcohol, the tax would increase it at 1.6%. And the crushed peach, which is a juice imported for $841, the tax will increase it at 0.84%. No, you're not at this seat. You can answer when you get there. So, therefore, Minister, the bag juice tax is 31% just based on the quantity, as versus the Starbucks tax at 2.4. Can I have some protection, Chairman? Can I have some protection? So, Minister, would you agree that the choice of a quantity per milliliter tax disproportionately impacts cheaper beverages? Can I have some protection, Chairman? Oh, is there for? Okay.
What Starbucks does? Starbucks does though.
Probably. Most likely.
Protection as a
Yes, protection.
So, member, I don't believe you're arguing for the poor and needy among us to continue to drink, the high sugar juices, the high sugar beverages. That's what you're arguing
And
for.
Minister,
And
Standing
we
Finance
are, yes,
Minister,
we
Standing Finance
are.
Minister, it is actually not the place to come and defend government policy. Policy set by the government at Standing Finance. We discuss the numbers in the budget. That is what.
No.
That.
She's bringing policy.
She is so. Minister. Anyways, Minister, don't look over there, Minister. Minister, when the Minister of Finance come, the Minister can answer in detail the numbers he has for health. Members, when the Minister of Health comes, the Minister of Health can go into details, his numbers, the numbers. Minister.
Minister, Chairman. Can I intervene on your
Member,
ruling, Chairman?
Member Crawford, please.
That's what you can. What's the dollars and cents? Point.
Chairman. All right, Chairman, can I move on? I think the point has been made. Yes.
Member
Chairman.
Crawford, thank you for taking the point, and I'm hoping the remainder of the House takes a point, because it has to be that the questions we ask.
Nah, Chairman.
It's
Sorry.
just a general statement, Member Crawford.
Yes.
The questions that we ask have to be in respect of the budget numbers that
And
we
the basis of the budget.
we have. If you want to delve deeper into a discussion of the numbers, then you would have to wait until the respective line minister come to go very deep in those numbers.
No, Chairman. Chairman, if I may, can I just intervene? Can I just say something, Chairman?
I was listening to standing finance, though.
Yes.
I wasn't sitting in the chair.
Yes.
So that's why I came in.
Can I have a chance?
No, hold on. I was listening to standing finance.
Yes.
So I'm not
Can I?
one chair to the next. I was in the office. So from one chair to the next, it flows just the same.
Can I say something, Chairman?
So, Member Crawford, you're not the only one I'm speaking to, you know, so I'm going to allow you to continue, right? So I'm saying to you, in order for you to go through, and I know we want to go through in very detailed level the numbers in the budget this year.
Yes.
We want to take the approach, once the Minister of Finance answer in a general way, particularly in respect of information that you would want to delve more deeply into with the Minister in question, we move on, because if not, we are going to be here repeating ad nauseum.
Can I say something,
ahead,
Chairman?
Member Crawford.
And I'm saying something to express caution on the direction that you're seeking to go. In this book tabled by the Minister of Finance, the revenue measures for the financial year, the minister has a figure for total revenue. That total revenue is dependent on the tax times quantity, or some would say price times quantity. It therefore is well within the permit to question the quantities that were used to arrive at the total revenue. The minister has intervened to suggest that the policy was going to be beneficial either way. I never asked her about that policy. I asked her on what basis did she arrive at the quantities that carried the revenues to our understanding and analysis. But I will move on, Chairman. Yes.
No, Mr. Minister.
I apologize, but I changed.
Please refer to the minister as the minister. So, Minister.
I immediately said minister. I apologize if she was, but
Minister.
No. That was not the intent at all. Minister, can I continue?
Minister, so are you comfortable with the response so far, Member Crawford, in respect of the revenue? You're comfortable with the response in respect of how the revenue estimates were arrived at?
Yes.
You are.
I'm comfortable that the quantities were suggested to be relatively the same as last year. I'm comfortable.
Same as last year.
All right.
So, Minister, I will allow the member to move to his next question.
Yes. All right. I'm not sure how this will be perceived, but did the ministry consider nutritional exemptions for items such as cherry milk, chocolate milk, etc.?
Going back to policy here, member?
Yeah, but well, if those were removed, the quantities would have been affected. If they were not removed, the quantities would not have been affected.
Member,
so the total revenue.
I don't know that we should be getting that detail in the policy of exactly which items are in the revenues at this stage.
I think that you're incorrect on the matter, Minister, but let's move on. So the answer has been given.
Member, we have some milk-based products that are exempted, and these will be itemized in the technical document that will be published.
Okay, so a future document will indicate that some nutritional products with sugar input have been exempted. Well, everybody's answering for the minister and contrary to the minister. The minister indicated that there are some milk products that would have been removed. All right. Well, I got two different answers. Chairman, my colleagues
Minister.
have indicated that they are interested.
Minister, I'm not sure what your colleagues have indicated. Minister, you heard the question?
I answered the question.
Did you answer the question?
I answered the question.
Next question, member.
I said there are some milk-based products that will be exempted and that there will be a technical document that will be published itemizing these.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I said.
No, is your side uninformed and was contradicting you, Minister? I was defending you. Further revenue measures, Minister, digital service tax. Now, having considered the impact of substitution services such as WhatsApp and the functionality of the Universal Service Fund, will a portion of the digital service tax be ring-fenced for the Universal Service Fund?
Member, we have a consolidated budget that over the years we have been bringing more and more into it from the fragmented segments of the government that was prevalent during your administration. We, whatever we collect in the consolidated fund, we look across all ministries, departments, and agencies. We take into consideration their budget when we put out the budget call and we put out the budget ceiling. We take all of that into consideration. So we try not to earmark monies because during the course of any fiscal year, there could be a need in one ministry relative to another, and so you have the flexibility when you manage a consolidated budget to be able to allocate where the needs are. So we will not be earmarking for USF in particular, but USF's budget will be considered during the budget process as it has been over the past several years.
Reasonable. Thank you, Minister. Now let's look at some of your growth protections. What's the revenue elasticity in respect to GDP growth that you embedded in the medium-term fiscal framework, the fiscal policy paper? What's the revenue elasticity? So if we miss growth by 1%, what would be the impact on revenue?
All right. So when we're projecting tax revenues, remember we look at buoyancy, not elasticity. There's a difference. Our revenues are predicated on our projections for GDP, and we have, from a macro perspective, we know that in general, 25 to 27% of our tax revenues, 25 to 27% of GDP is generally where our tax revenues are. Of course, that's not the only factor that we use to project the revenues. We look at tax revenues from a micro perspective as well, in terms of all the tax types, and we do the projections that way. Then we calibrate the macro with the micro to come to some, studied understanding of what the revenues are going to be. So it's not an elasticity calculation per se. We know there's buoyancy if GDP grows more than what we're projecting, then we would fully expect to see more tax revenues.
Thank you, Minister. But I think the response is unfortunate because the GDP is dependent on the rate of growth. And so if the revenue is dependent on the GDP, then the revenue, therefore, is also dependent on the rate of growth. If there's a particular rate of growth, there will be a different revenue. So I'm saying that, especially based on the simple fact that within the fiscal policy paper, you suggested that your growth was skewed to the downside. So a 1% reduction in growth, how would that impact revenue? Was no stress test done to see a growth impact on revenue outcomes?
So remember, I just described to you the process that we use to estimate the tax revenues. It's a robust process. If you look back in time and if you look at the historical outturn of it, it mirrors what was generally estimated. Obviously, in times of stress, as we've seen, like in Melissa, on other hurricanes, that would throw those projections off course, and we have to come back to Parliament with adjustments on that. But I can assure you, member, that there's a very robust process to get to our revenue projections, again predicated on our growth, on our GDP estimates, and just a detailed look and estimation of all the tax types for which we collect taxes. And that's how we do it, and that's the answer that I'm giving you today.
All right, Minister. Minister, the growth percentage that was in the fiscal policy paper, averaging about 1.5% per year over the next 4 years, it indicated that it assumed a rebound in tourism. What is the level of tourism activity that it is expecting for this growth to be achieved?
So, member, with regards to the tourism sector, I would ask you to pose your questions as well to the Minister of Tourism when he comes, but just to say from a revenue perspective, in terms of the planning, there is good coordination between us and tourism. And what we have as the underlying assumption is that there is a phased reopening of the sector. We expect to see full recovery by the end of the upcoming fiscal year. And so the assumption that is in the budget for tourism growth is over the fiscal year would be 3%. About 7-8 as it ramps up, 7 to 8% as it ramps up.
78%.
As it ramps up, 7 to 8%.
7 to 8%.
As it ramps up, as it recovers.
But Minister, if one goes to page 1706, the projection for 2025-26 tourism is that tourism should actually see a reduction in earnings, moving from 3 billion to 2.9 billion. So the fiscal paper is suggesting tourism rebound, but the budget is suggesting earnings reduction. What?
All right. So again, member, I'd love for you to pose your questions to the Minister of Tourism, but suffice it to say, when you look in the big yellow book, which is the estimates of expenditure, you will not be able to compare year on year.
17,008.
Right? You won't be able to compare because every ministry got one-off allocation to deal with the hurricane, and that one-off allocation is not repeated in the upcoming fiscal year. So you may look at the ministry and you see that their numbers for fiscal year, the new fiscal year is lower than what it is for this fiscal year that we're ending. You would have to know what the one-off is in this year, this fiscal year that we're in, what the one-off is in order to compare those numbers and to be able to say whether they've gotten an increased budget or a reduced budget.
Minister, unfortunately, I'm not speaking to expenditure. I'm speaking to the subheading which states, and I quote, estimated growth earnings from the industry financial year 26-27 are projected at 2.97 billion, corresponding with visitor arrivals of 3.41 million, stopover arrivals of 1.94 and cruise arrivals of 1.46. Gross earnings for 2025-2026 was estimated at 3.07 billion. So therefore, what this is suggesting is that tourism earnings was greater in 25-26 and would reduce in 26-27. Yet, the fiscal policy paper is suggesting that the rebound in tourism is a basis of our growth. These two things don't reconcile, Minister.
So, member, again, I'd love for you to pose your questions to the Ministry of Tourism. When we do our estimates, it's at a point in time. We take into consideration all the information that we have at that point in order to help with our calculation. So I would direct you to the Ministry and Minister of Tourism with your question.
But Minister, don't...
Member, we won't belay this point. Minister, while we are going with additional questions, I would ask that the FS just take a look at the statement being made by the member in respect of the revenue estimates and the apparent contradictory statement being made by the budget documents in respect of revenue vis-a-vis the fiscal policy paper, and see if you can come back to responding to that question.
Okay. So
member,
the page
next
17,
question.
So, but I'll give the page 1708. I'll give the
No, and what page on the fiscal policy paper?
17,008.
Fiscal policy paper page.
I will find the exact page of the fiscal policy paper, which mentioned estimated growth dependent on tourism and manufacturing rebound, as well as...
Because I'm going to just double check the paper, and I guess the ministry will need to do the same to determine if the figure stated in fiscal policy paper is an estimate, as it states there, or if it is our final number for the previous fiscal year.
Chairman,
so let's go to the next question and then we come back to that.
To something more specific to the minister. As it relates to tourism activity, there's a projected future tax on tourism activity. Minister, I think the minister is still looking at the last question. But there's a suggested tax on tourism activity. That tourism activity, what does that include, if you may indicate some of the things to include? And specifically, does it include cruise activity? Does it include Airbnb What does that tourism activity?
Tourism activity as defined in the legislation.
Can you indicate to me? I've not seen that legislation. Would it include Airbnb? Would it include cruise activity?
You have to go to the legislation.
No, Chairman, with due respect, there's a tax here for tourism activity that has a revenue projection coming from the minister. If this is only on visitor arrival, that is a different thing for stopovers as versus for cruise. If this is only for JTB registered, that's a different quantity as versus for Airbnb. So therefore, it is reasonable for us to ask the current minister what is included in tourism activity, because the header for the tax, Member Brown, is tourism activity. Lend me a pink book. Pink book, revenue. When you sit here,
But I've given him the answer, right? As defined in the act.
all right, so therefore, the JTB Act, does the JTB Act, to your knowledge, include cruise ship persons in tourism activity? Does it include tour and tour activity in tourism activities? Does it include Airbnb in tourism activities? This is a reasonable question. 30% of the arrivals are suggested to go to Airbnbs. Is that a part of your income estimation? She has not, and you're not sitting there.
Members, Minister,
May I lose the part on it? What? Okay.
Minister,
Yeah.
it is not possible for the minister to search for every single thing in here. For some of the
No,
for some of the things, it will take some time. So, Minister,
right.
the member would like you to pull the act and read it for him.
All right, I'll get back to that question then.
So, member, would any member can pull the act so that we can read exactly what is stated there. It's not reasonable to ask the minister to remember all of it. So, pull in the interim.
All right, Minister.
Go ahead, member.
Well, Minister, my next question is a follow-up.
All right, well, hold it until we pull
All right,
the
so I'll
act.
skip that and come back to it. All right.
All right, member, if you look at the General Consumption Tax Act, tourism activities consisting of supplying the services of a hotel or resort cottage, a site or other facilities for
I'm not
camping,
hearing at all.
tourist accommodation not specified in paragraph A, B, or C, water sports and attraction, a tour operator pursuant to a license issued under the Tourist Board Act.
So does that include cruise and Airbnb? Because I wasn't hearing the reading. Does that include cruise ship and Airbnb?
Remember, I will read again exactly what is in the General Consumption Tax
Yes,
Act.
please.
And it says, tourism activities consisting of supplying the services of A, a hotel, B, a resort cottage, C, a site or other facilities for camping, D, tourism accommodation not specified in paragraph A, B, or C, E, water sports, F, an attraction, G, a tour operator pursuant to a license issued under the Tourist Board Act.
Okay. That would include cruise tourism. How do you expect to collect the tax on the persons on a cruise? Only those who disembark, or would it include all persons? What's the basis of that collection? You're looking at job over there and it's not going to work.
Okay, all right. So remember, what you need to understand is that
Okay.
on these services that I've listed, the GCT rate on them is 10%.
Okay.
No other industry has that rate. And we are equalizing the rate to the standard 15% GCT.
All right, I'll move on, Minister. I didn't question the rate, I questioned who's included. But okay. Minister, to what extent is the projected growth contingent on full utilization of the capital budget?
So, of course, we would expect that some of the GDP growth would be supported by the capital spending that we do. But just want to point out to members that in these capital projects that we do, remember that we have to import quite a bit. We have to import quite a bit in terms of the inputs into these capital projects. So while we do expect growth to come from these projects, we know that, for instance, what NARA is going to be doing in the upcoming fiscal year, it will be engaged in pre-investment, meaning working on the plans for the reconstruction, ensuring that people are in place and so on. So in this first upcoming new fiscal year, you will not necessarily see a significant impact from it because of all the startup work that needs to be done. But as it gathers momentum, you will begin to see more and more of it, of the big capital works reflected in the GDP growth.
But the capacity to execute, Minister, would have reasonably been assessed in this particular year's budget, for which there is a extensive capital budget. Having missed it last year by 37%, I'm asking, to what extent does the full utilization of the capital budget impact your growth projections in the fiscal policy paper?
All right. So there's an expectation that we will be engaging more capacity as we look out into the medium term. From here on into the medium term, we will be looking at just engaging more capacity in order to help us to spend the capital figures, the budget that's there.
Chairman, before the leader of government business continue to peruse the standing orders, I'd like to inform him that the fiscal policy paper is indeed a part of the conversation in this budget.
Why do you need to remind the House Leader of any such
So I
thing?
see him studying, Minister.
No,
I
he's
see him
not studying a
studying.
thing.
I see him studying.
When you're fast, I want to know what the
All right,
conversation
just
is.
4 questions to go, Minister, and I'll move on.
Focus on your question.
Just 4 questions.
Thank you.
No. The medium-term debt strategy and the fiscal policy paper overtly speaks to crowding out private sector borrowing and private sector investment. Can the minister indicate exactly what systems are in place to monitor and manage that activity?
Sorry, what activity?
Crowding out of private sector borrowing. I think it indicated 60% of the debt would have been through local, I don't want to misquote, but it indicated overtly the risk of crowding out private sector borrowing.
So as we put together the various budget documents, we have to consider just all aspects of it, and we have to state it in the book for completeness. We have not seen that phenomenon in the local market. If anything, there is a significant appetite for government debt in the local market. But again, we have to state the pluses and minuses, the risk and the rewards when we put out these publications, so that it gives you a rounded picture and it lets you know that we are considering not just the optimistic side, but we consider as well the not so optimistic scenario.
All right, Minister. Does this budget have a allocation for a renewal of the catastrophe bond?
Yes, there is an allocation in there.
And what is the targeted coverage for that catastrophe
We
bond?
cannot say at this moment. As you would know, this would be a commercial transaction, that we will use our brokers to help us and our international partners to help us to place. Obviously, we want to continue our framework for natural disaster risk financing, and we are moving aggressively to ensure that we replenish and get new instruments as well to deal with emerging disasters.
Well, Minister, I didn't ask for the achieved. I said, what's the targeted? What is the targeted coverage?
And I am saying to you, we cannot tell you the amount.
Okay.
Minister,
We can't tell you the amount. It's a commercial
right.
transaction.
Minister,
it's a negotiated
Minister, he
transaction.
probably just needed an estimated rate that was applied.
No,
for
it's not the rate I
what?
asked now.
No,
It's
it's
the
asking
coverage.
about
What
the
is the
amount.
targeted?
Full
But I'll
coverage,
move on.
dollar
I'll
value
move on.
coverage you're asking the
Yes,
minister?
I was saying.
Oh, I thought you just wanted to know what was the percentage used for her estimated cost calculation. So, Minister, perfect response. Next.
On that note, I will just thank the minister and thank the chair. Thank you.
Oh, you're finished. Oh, good. Good intervention. So in respect of Member Crawford, we will come back in the calculations for the tourism revenues. That's one of the things that will come back. Were you comfortable with? Yes, I think you are comfortable with that. The one that I think, and are you comfortable? So, Minister, you have nothing to come back to the members in respect of. Next question. Who's next now? Member Brown.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I want to just move quickly to the same revenue measures, specifically as it relates to the proposed general consumption tax on digital services, Minister. And I see where in the fourth quarter you expect to earn 300 million. Could you advise us what are the digital components that are expected to be have the application of the GCT?
All right, member, you will note that the estimate of 300 million is quite low, and that is because it requires us to do quite a bit of work to get there, and that's why we're not overly estimating our intake in the upcoming fiscal year. We are working with the OECD. We're working with their framework because there's a lot that you have to put in place. We're looking at the experience of other countries. There are several countries that have instituted this. And in terms of the components of it, I wouldn't be able to list all of those today. I wouldn't be able to list those at all. As we do the work and as we get closer to implementation, we will speak more about that.
All right, thank you, Minister. But that 300 million, I don't think you pulled it from a hat. So it must have been grounded in something. So What are those possible? We heard about streaming services. So there's a figure that is there that has been put forward, right? So I understand that you may be continuing to work through, but we hear issues of streaming services, ChatGPT, Netflix. So I'm asking specifically, what is that 300 million so far grounded in? Chairman, can you allow the... Yes, Minister.
Sure. Well, I'll just repeat what I said to you. In putting together what constitute digital services, we are working with the OECD, was that experience working with other countries on this to get to implementation of it. We will make decisions along the way. It would be premature for us to put those items out there now. We've looked at the experience of countries. We've seen where they started and how they ramped up. And those are the guidelines that we've been using. And as again, I say to you, our estimate is not overly optimistic because of the work we're going to have to do in the upcoming tax year in order to get to implementation.
Yeah, I hear that.
Member, next, because this revenue is all the way in fourth quarter, and for the very first time in our history, we are able to read revenue measures that give us some detailed understanding of the basis forming the revenue estimates. Minister, we have never had this before in our history. So let's move on from that question and move to the next one. Your mic went off? Lord. Press it back on for me, please, Member Brown. How come? No, they don't have to. Something is wrong, Member Brown. It's not picking up any. Turn off everything. Member Brown, turn yours off as well. It's not picking up anybody's mic.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. All right. The final question I have around that is the issue of how is it proposed. And I hear, Minister, that it is going to be, we are still contemplating and working out the mechanics around the, Minister Mackenzie, just hold on a minute. How is it proposed? Is there any initial consideration, since this has been placed in the estimates in terms of the revenue measures? How is it proposed, Minister, to actually collect these taxes?
Member, again, I can say to you, the most efficient way to calculate would be at source, but again, it requires quite a bit of work on our part, working with our international partner who has helped many countries to put this system into effect. The details of it will become known. Just allow us to work through that process, and maybe at another meeting of Parliament or a committee meeting like this one, we can tell you the details of it.
All right, thank you, Minister. I mean, a lot of our companies are, in terms of their planning, are waiting on the government for clarity. So I urge the Minister and the team to have that clarification in short order.
So that's why we're not implementing it on day one. We're allowing time for this, for companies to ask us questions, and as we work along, as we move along, we'll be working with the companies.
Thank you.
This seems like Member Hilton. That's your Member Hilton.
Thank you. Minister, I think we can agree that the 1948 Customs Act is badly, urgently in need of reform. 2020, the legislation was brought here. This is 2026. When are we likely to see the implementation of that legislation?
It will be coming back to Parliament this fiscal year because there are a number of amendments that were proposed when it went to the Senate.
It is 5 years, 6 years ago.
And given the intervening election, we have to take it back again through some parts of the process. But I am motivated and committed to ensuring that it comes to the Parliament during this upcoming fiscal year.
Member Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, I look at your policy paper and I have a few questions. First one is you have revised inflation, but you have not revised the 2024 poverty rate, which stands at 7.8%. The global projected rate is 3.3% in fiscal year 26-27 and 3.2% in the following year. What would inform...
Member Gordon, I don't think we heard you properly. Revise poverty or property rate? What did you say?
Poverty rate.
Poverty rate.
Yeah. So what would have informed that, Minister, that you revised inflation, but you have not said anything about the revision of the poverty rate?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Because you started out with inflation, and then you...
Inflation is revised, okay, up from the 2024. But I have not seen anything, any revision for the poverty rate, which stood at 7.8% in 2024.
Yeah, the survey of living conditions has to be updated,
Poverty.
right? Yeah, we haven't laid that in. So remember, there is a survey process to establish the poverty rate. Whenever that report is completed, it will be published and or tabled in Parliament.
I don't hear a word. Madam Chair, I didn't hear a word the minister said.
The minister said
I'm saying, member, that the survey that looks at the poverty rate in Jamaica happens, and I believe it happens every 2 years. Right, so as far as I know, the latest report is not ready yet, but I know as soon as it is ready, it is published. But suffice it to say, when you look at the history of that number that measures poverty rates, we are at the lowest level that we have seen in Jamaica because of the policies of this government. We have seen poverty levels declined by about 50%. Cut in half.
Nice cheerleader. Minister,
Members, allow
Minister.
Member Gordon to complete his questions.
you have
ahead, Member Gordon.
projected economic growth of 1% in fiscal year 28-29. This budget does not inspire confidence in terms of growth, our growth strategy. If we are to maintain that poverty percentage, then it has to be led by growth. And I'm seeing nothing here that would suggest that there's any strategy for growth. What then, Minister, would inform you reducing the projected growth rate in 2029 as against fiscal year 26-27, 27-28, and you project 1%?
All right. So, member, if you look at the upcoming fiscal year, some recovery is built into that, and we've seen that pattern as we go through periods of disaster. We saw it going through COVID, where GDP was depressed during the COVID years, and as soon as we exited that pandemic, you saw the growth rates accelerate. We've seen it through Hurricane Beryl, a decline in the growth rate in the aftermath, and then shortly thereafter you see the recovery, and you will see this similar pattern following Melissa. This is a devastating hurricane, but we are fully expecting to begin to see positive growth again shortly. As a result of the work of this government, the quick get up and go of this government, Jamaica is being lauded for its efforts, its quick response following the devastation of Hurricane Melissa. And you will see those growth rates during the quarter. As we look into the future, we know that we go through hurricane cycles. We have to deal with those. We don't know what else is going to hit us. And so as we project, our stance has been really to be conservative with our projections of growth.
Minister, I'm still fixated on growth. There's no way we can sustain our fiscal policy and your projection with 1% growth. What is your strategy to grow the economy to achieve the 4 to 7% that you're proposing?
The minister just asked me if there was a question there.
So member,
If she hasn't heard a question, I suggest that she doesn't answer.
So, but let me clarify. Let me clarify, member. I think you said this was a negotiated benefit, and I just want to clarify that as far as I'm being told at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, it is not a negotiated benefit.
Can we now take the headings?
Huh? They will put them. I have to turn this off, turn that off. Let me. What's been started? 11,000. Okay. Okay.
Chair, you could put head 20,000, Ministry of Finance and the Public Service. We're going to come to those. Hold on. Yes. No, we're going. There was a question on the others. So. We put it. We take the headings. 20,000 to Ministry of Finance and the Public Service as amended.
Pages 1 to 25.
Pages 1 to 25. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Heading 20,000 C, Ministry of Finance and the Public Service Capital as amended, pages 1 to 19. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Heading 20,011, Accountant General Department, pages 1 to 5. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Head 20,012, Jamaica Custom Agency, pages 1 to 8. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Head to 20,017, Public Debt Servicing Amortization, pages 1 to 6. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Head 20,018, Public Debt Service Interest Payment, pages 1 to 9. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Head 20,019, Pensions, pages 1 to 9. Those in favor? The ayes have it. Those against, sorry. The ayes have it. Head 20,056, Tax Administration, Jamaica, pages 1 to 5. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Head 20,060, Financial Investigations Division, pages 1 to 4. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Head 20,061, Revenue Protection Department, pages 1 to 3. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Thank you, Chair. Chair, the Minister of Finance and her State Minister will now take head 1,000, head 2,000, and head 16,000. I know the technical support teams are already in the house, so there may just be a little movement around. I know Member Jackson had indicated that he had a question in relation to 1,600. So the members can ask question on these three heads now. 16,000, sir. And Chair, let us just to formally thank the technical team from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service.
Xavier. Oh, I'm on mic, so we can't trouble you. No, I remember. Last I'm over 2,000 plus margin. Mr. Chairman, I need the protection of the JDF. You know, you used to vote for me. When you were well behaved, you used to vote for me, you know. He used to be in my constituency and was well behaved at the time. But since him leaving, get out of hand.
Hello there.
Juliet, you used to live in Marine Park. You used to live in Marine Park. Them time you used to vote for me. I used to come make demands on me as my voter.
Right, work tonight here. Work for.
You misbehave. You're terrible. Both roads. Back and front of you. Yes. All the way to the bypass. Yeah, man. No, from the Texaco station, Brayton, it goes all the way back to the bypass. Calumet, Grace. Yeah. It's not because you never vote for me that I'm trying to penalize you, you know. But you give me a thought. You give me a thought. They done. And then Panta Pike will cost me out. But Juliet, the other one too, the one at the front, Bernard Lodge Road, go back to Spanish Town. But that is incidental. They're going to detour from Marine Park section to go around there. So I'm trying to get them to bring it over back to Newland Road. So I'm looking for your support. And that of Mayor Mackenzie. Minister Mackenzie, looking for your support. So that the minister behind him can drive safely going home. And if it don't happen, it's because you never contributed to her getting home safely. Big shot.